Almighty God, by whom alone kings reign and princes decree justice, and from whom alone cometh all counsel, wisdom, and understanding, we, thine unworthy servants, here gathered together in thy name, do most humbly beseech thee to send down thy heavenly wisdom from above, to direct and guide us in all our consultations, and grant that, we having thy fear always before our eyes, and laying aside all private interest and prejudices and partial affections, the result of all our counsels may be to the glory of thy blessed name, the maintenance of true religion and justice, the safety and honor and happiness of the Queen, the public weal, peace, and tranquility of the island, and the uniting and knitting together of the hearts of all persons and estates within the same, in true Christian love and charity towards another, and through Jesus Christ, O Lord. Amen.
You may be seated. This honorable House now resumes its sitting. Call of the roll.
Mr. Miller, Mr. Salmon, Mr. Granville, Ms. Parsons, Ms. Mills, Mr. Francis, Ms. Robe, Ms. Roxburgh, Mr. Nunez, Ms. Tamoy Campbell, Ms. Marlene Campbell, Mr. White, Mr. Lewis, Ms. Anderson, Mr. Barrett, Mr. Bingham, Ms. Brown, Ms. Burton, Mr. Chance, Mr. Cook, Mr. Cowie, Ms. Davy, Ms. Douglas, Mr. Egler, Mr. Gibbons, Mr. Hewitt, Ms. Howell, Mr. Idol, Ms. Mendez, Mr. Morris, Mr. O'Morgy, Mr. O'Rain, Mr. Palmer, Ms. Reed, Ms. Robinson, Ms. Smith, Ms. Waugh, Ms. White, Mr. Wilson, Ms. Wright, Mr. Winter.
House Leader.
Madam Speaker, I beg to move for the suspension of the sitting to enable us to hear remarks and greetings from parliamentary and other representatives.
The question is that the sitting be suspended to enable us to hear remarks and greetings from parliamentary and other representatives. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it. Miss Valerie A. Curtis, Acting Clerk to the Houses.
Senator the Honorable Thomas Tavares Finson, OJ, CDJP, QC, President of the Senate, Honorable Marisa Dalrymple Philibert, MP, Speaker of the House of Representatives, Honorable Floyd Green, MP, Minister of Agriculture and Fisheries, Honorable Robert Morgan, MP, Minister of State in the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information. Parliamentarians. Honorable Donna Parchment Brown, CDJP, Political Ombudsman. Ms. Jamie Ann Chevans, Project Coordinator for the Youth, and other representatives of the National Integrity Action Limited. Mr. Malik Kellier, Chairman, Youth Advisory Council of Jamaica, and other members of the Youth Advisory Council, staff of the Houses of Parliament and the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information, members of the National Youth Parliament, members of the media. I am pleased to be here today for the convening of the 11th National Youth Parliament of Jamaica. It is good to see that among another set of young persons, they are willing to take up the mantle of leadership for another generation. By choosing to become members of the National Youth Parliament, you have signaled your willingness to be advocates for the youth of Jamaica, to raise to the national stage issues that are of the highest concern to the youth of Jamaica at this time. This year's theme makes reference to several tools that should be in every leader's toolkit, your tools of trade. I would like to draw your attention to two that I feel are essentially pertinent given the current global situation. The first is knowledge. Persons seeking to lead must be well informed and have a broad knowledge base. Sound decisions are guided by accurate and timely information. I implore you as young leaders to explore formal and informal avenues of education. You are called to be lifelong learners, continuously keeping abreast of trends and technical and theoretical advancement that can impact the political, economic, and social spheres. Be open to learning from the people you will come in contact with, no matter who they are or where they are from. This last is connected to the other tool, that of networking. I am sure you're aware that properly formed networks will allow you to harness a wealth of knowledge and give you access to seats of influence. Strong, well-formed networks will not only create avenues for the benefit of those you seek to lead, but will also allow you to be a source of support to others who seek to improve the lives of our people. And as a consequence, these mutually beneficial relationships will build resilience into any projects you seek to undertake. I am also pleased to see that the National Youth Parliament continues to be a vehicle for community action, as evidenced by the projects you have undertaken throughout the year. The fact that you persisted in spite of, or perhaps because of, the COVID-19 pandemic is proof of your commitment to be of service to the Jamaican people. One thing we have learned in this is that surviving and recovering from this pandemic is dependent on how we take care of each other. We at the Houses of Parliament are pleased to have played a part in preparing you for this occasion. I hope that today's sitting will be beneficial for you, our youth parliamentarians, who will use this forum to voice your recommendations for improving our society. I hope, too, that the wider society listens keenly to what you have to say. Once again, I applaud you for offering yourselves to be members of the National Youth Parliament and wish for you a successful day. Thank you.
Mr. Malik Kellio, Chairman, Youth Advisory Council of Jamaica.
John Diefenbaker noted that Parliament is more than procedure. It is the custodian of the nation's freedom. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, specially invited guests, youth members of Parliament joining us here and online, good morning. No, good morning. That's better. One of the aims of the National Youth Parliament of Jamaica is to provide young leaders with the opportunity for active engagement and community development, which will lead to the development of policy for the benefit of all young Jamaicans. It is my distinct honor this morning to bring greetings on behalf of the Youth Advisory Council of Jamaica. This 11th staging of the Youth Parliament signals a beautiful way to bring the curtains down on the host of activities for Youth Month 2020. Each youth leader was assigned to a constituency and expected to execute a county project and a constituency project. And then bam, the COVID-19 pandemic arrived on our shores. But this cohort of youth parliamentarians were not daunted and rose to the occasion, of course, maintaining the relevant health guidelines and protocols along the way. They fully exemplify the theme of Youth Month, Rethink Youth. They were resilient in their desire to work and facilitate change and inspired hope in such a challenging time, encouraging young people along the journey. Congratulations, youth parliamentarians. I think I dare say, much to the dismay of previous NYPJ alumni like myself, that this is one of the best group of youth parliamentarians. Just 3 words. This is it. Today is your day, youth parliamentarians. You have worked, you have served, you have stood the course. I know you are nervous a little bit, but don't be. Remember, you represent all the young people you see here in this room, online, and all young people of Jamaica listening to you today. Go forth and make your recommendations as we task the government to rethink and ensure that the issues we deem important for discussion today, namely education, youth under and unemployment, mental health, and skills in agriculture are addressed. And I know I see the Minister of Agriculture and Fisheries here, so I hope he's here to stay and listen. This is not the end for you, Youth Parliament. You now join the cadre of NYPJ alumni to guide future generations to ignite their world. Rest assured that the Youth Advisory Council of Jamaica will be holding the government accountable and follow up on all the recommendations tabled here today in the form of position papers. It would be remiss of me to not thank those without whom today would not have been possible. The team at the Youth and Adolescent Policy Division of the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information for facilitating your growth through this program. They know themselves, stand and take a bow. My fellow members of the Youth Advisory Council, Annabelle Jones, Shakira Douglas, Jonathan Dial, Steve McCubbing, and Benjamin Fraser, for for holding your hands along this journey. The team from the Jamaica Association for Debate and Empowerment, House of Parliament, and the National Integrity Action for their critiques of speeches and presentations that you will make here today. This is not the end, parliamentarians. We urge you to continue the good work in your communities and continue to advocate for the issues affecting the people of our country. As one day, I look forward to sit and beam with pride, as we all are equally doing today, and watch as you take up your place as parliamentarians of this Jamaica land we love. Have a good day.
Ms. Jamie Ann Shevons, Project Manager, Youth National Integrity Action.
President of the Senate, Senator Tom Tavares Finson, Speaker of the House, the Honorable Marissa Darimpo Philibert, Minister of State in the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information, the Honorable Robert Morgan, Minister of Agriculture and Fisheries, the Honorable Floyd Green, Political Ombudsman, the Honorable Mrs. Donna Parchment Brown, Acting Clerk to the Houses, Ms. Valerie A. Curtis, Chairman of the Youth Advisory Council, Malik Kelly, young parliamentarians, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Good morning. Thank you. I am pleased to bring warm greetings from the board and staff of National Integrity Action on the occasion of the sitting of the 2020 cohort of the National Youth Parliament. As the project manager with the responsibility for the youth initiatives, I am elated to have witnessed the resilience and caliber of the young men and women seated here in the conference center and online throughout your tenure. NIA's decision to continue its partnership with the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information for the execution of this program was a no-brainer. Each year, we are able to witness firsthand the opportunity provided for youth to deepen their understanding of parliamentary democracy while developing their skills in research, policy formulation and analysis, advocacy, public speaking, and communication. This, of course, is in line with NIA's mandate as we seek to empower our youth to stand up and speak out for good governance and other pertinent issues that may impact them. The holistic experience in research, policy formation and advocacy, and public speaking skills, I am sure you will treasure forever. You have shown why we should continue to invest in the development of young people, as they are also deeply passionate about nation building and the promotion of the principles of good government, while seeking to serve the citizens of Jamaica land we love. I commend you for persevering despite the challenges brought on with the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic worldwide. Through your various projects and initiatives, from handing out care packages to our most vulnerable, to refurbishing school buildings, to your book drives, you truly mirrored this year's National Youth Month theme, Rethink Youth. You pivoted, you refocused, you reprioritized, and were able to make a lasting impact to the benefit of your nation. And I salute you and thank you all for your hard work. That being said, today is your day. Today you have been given a platform to demonstrate to our current leaders that youth have ideas worthy of being debated in this honorable house, that youth have the capacity to make meaningful contributions in areas of governance that will affect us today and for decades to come. Congratulations on staying the course and leading with shining example for other young people. Congratulations on staying the course and leading with a shining example for other young people, not to disabuse themselves of apathy that oftentimes befalls them, and legitimately become a part of the process of engaging in resilience through entrepreneurship, training, hope, innovation, networking, and knowledge. Enjoy your day.
The Honorable Donna Parchment Brown, Political Ombudsman.
Mr. President, Madam Speaker of Jamaica's Parliament and of the Youth Parliament, Minister Green, Honorable Mr. Robert Nesta Morgan, Minister of State in the ministry that's hosting today's very important occasion, Acting Clerk to the Houses of Parliament, Ms. Valerie Curtis, ladies and gentlemen, members of the media, members of the 11th sitting of the National Youth Parliament of Jamaica. Good morning. I greet those who are here in the building as well as those who have joined us remotely and congratulate each and every one for the role you have played that has brought us here this morning. Congratulations to all of you, our young Jamaicans. You have been selected through a competitive process to represent the best of who we are and who we hope to be. Minister, this program is of great importance. We have a lot to learn from the ideas, expertise, and experience of our youth parliamentarians. You have shown resilience, hope, and innovation in this rather different year. We ask all of our youth parliamentarians to visit the Office of the Political Ombudsman's website, if you have not done so yet, to study the Agreement and Declaration on Political Conduct, normally called the Code. Please, even as your term draws to a close, I encourage you to integrate its tenets in your lives and work. We hope to welcome all of you as members of PARI, that is the Political Awareness and Respect Initiative of the Office of the Political Ombudsman, when you have completed your term here. As many of you know, the Political Ombudsman is a commission of Parliament. It investigates complaints of political wrongdoing. We are also mandated to promote good relations between supporters of different political parties, a noble vision of our leaders, which I would impress on us as very important in building our democracy. I congratulate the ministry on the growth of this space and the Parliament for the support it has given to this work. You, our young leaders, are exposed to the best of our ideas on participation, democracy, integrity, good governance, leadership, and fundamentally the rule of law. I'm honored to join you to rethink. I'm also honored to lend my patronage as political ombudsman to this sitting of the Youth Parliament. I look forward to future engagement and extend my congratulations to all involved in this important program, so important that both the President and the Speaker of Jamaica's Parliament are here with us today. I recognize that the members of the Youth Parliament are drawn from all over our beautiful island, and as a country girl who has lived in town for most of my adult life, I really think that is such an important part of engaging our citizens. Many of you may recall the symbolic code signing ceremony with Prime Minister, the Most Honorable Andrew Holness, as leader of the Jamaica Labour Party, and then leader of the opposition People's National Party, Dr. Peter Phillips, which was at Emancipation Park in August, just after the elections were announced. That signified their personal commitment to adhere to the tenets of the code and served as a call out to their candidates, party officials, members and supporters to uphold wholeheartedly the terms of the code. As a replicating act by this year's Youth Parliament on this perhaps the most important day of your service as youth parliamentarians, it is my honor and pleasure to now invite Mr. David Salmon and Mr. Jadon Hewitt, the Prime Minister and Leader of the Opposition, to participate in the symbolic act of signing a certificate as a public statement to commit to the tenets of the code now and forward, and as an act also to call on your fellow parliamentarians to do the same. As we did in August, we will send copies of the certificates to all parliamentarians and ask that you sign and return to the Ombudsman. Thank you so much for having me here and this opportunity. I now invite Prime Minister and the Leader of the Opposition to the table where we will sign.
I now invite Senator the Honorable Thomas Tavares Finson, President of the Senate.
Honorable Marissa Dalrymple Philibert, Member of Parliament and Speaker of the House of Representatives, Ms. Denise Daly, Opposition spokesperson, who is not here. I think that she may be joining us via Zoom. So, salutations. Ms. Valerie Curtis, Acting Clerk of the House, Honorable Donna Parchment Brown, Political Ombudsman, who you just heard from, Ms. Jamie Ann Shervans, Project Coordinator, and other representatives of NIA, Mr. Malik Kelly, Chairman of the Youth Advisory Council of Jamaica, and other members of the Youth Advisory Council, staff of the Houses of Parliament, and the Ministry of Youth, Education and Information, members of the National Youth Parliament, members of the media, Minister Floyd Green, the Minister of Agriculture and Fisheries. You have a particular explanation to give, Minister. Are you here as a member of the Youth Parliament? Or a member of the Cabinet of Jamaica? I'm trying to figure out what your standing is here. Both. A young member of parliament and the cabinet, okay. Particular welcome to you all, and a particular welcome to Minister Green. It's a pleasure to see you. You know, before I even, you know, when you're in my position, they write something and give it to you and say you have to read it, right? So, before I read it, I want to just say a few words. First of all, I have noticed over the last, I think, 18 months in going through the newspapers, on a number of occasions you see persons who have made a mark in things that they have been doing both here and in Jamaica. And it says, when they interview them, oh, I was a member of the Youth Parliament of Jamaica. And it shows you that your participation here is not a waste of time. It is not a... It is not a tick on your resume. It is an important step and something that you can use to advance yourself. The other thing I'm going to say, and it may be, I don't think it would be, join the youth organizations of the political parties, depending on how you assess yourself and the policy of the party. Join G2K, join the PNP's youth arm, join the GNP's youth arm, and participate in making decisions that will make your country better over the years. The political ombudsman does not have a youth arm because they are not concerned with, well, you want a youth arm? They are not concerned. They are a referee. Join a football team, right? And begin to hone your skills. Now, let us take an example. There is Minister Green. Oh, stand up, Minister Green, make them look when you're good. Now, here is a young man that, if ever Marissa Dalrymple and I, thank you, Minister, if ever Marissa and I said to ourselves, boy, oh Lord, we are tired. All we have to do is just look at a young man like Green, right? And he belongs to a government that has other young persons, including Mr. Terry Long, who is in the Ministry of Education now. Culture. Yeah, well, he was in education also, I think. And then on the other side, you have other young people to look up to there. I think one of the youngest female senators, her name is Miss Morris, I believe. Miss Morris, Miss Curtis? Yes, Miss Morris, young senator. And you have Mr. Crawford. These are persons who are making a contribution to the development of the country. And I urge you to do likewise. If you are inspired by the work of the political ombudsman, then you can be a referee too. But I beg you, the country more than ever needs your brain, right? It needs your brain, it needs your application, and it needs your energy. Now you will notice the speech, just teasing you. You will notice that one of the things that they say about young politicians is that, boy, they are full of energy and they have ideas. Now, what does the country need now in a time of COVID? Energy and ideas. And I look at you guys and recognize that the country is in good hands. The biggest mistake that people make when they are speaking, when they go to funerals or them go to wedding or any event like this, is that them talk about themselves, right? You go and you're giving a eulogy and you get up and start to talk about yourself. But I'm going to talk about myself briefly. because I'm not going to deal with my aspect as an attorney. I came back to Jamaica from law school at a time when many Jamaicans were still studying abroad. I was on the cusp because Norman Manley Law School had just started. And I came back to Jamaica in 1978, running up to the 1980 election, which was the most violent election in the history of this country, and which caused a change in the outlook of how we manage political life in Jamaica. And I, much to the horror of many persons who knew me, became involved in the process of the 1980 election and was named to the presidency, named to the Senate shortly after the 1980 election. At the time, one of the youngest members of the Senate. Horace Chang and I think during that election were two of the youngest persons. We are now two of the oldest in the party. Thank you, Mr. Green. But I just mentioned that because it was perhaps not a sensible thing to do at the time, but I felt that it was in the interest of the country that I participate in the electoral process. And I have managed to continue to contribute during that period of time. So I ask you as young people to look at what it is you think the country needs and to equip yourself to make a contribution to the country. And I'm not one of these people who are going to say, don't go into private practice and try and buy a nice house. Or remember that we are in a new paradigm. Country passed through the paradigm where you used to meet somebody and say, how you doing? I said, boy, I'm a suffer, you know. How you doing? How is everything? Rough. That was the mantra of the country for many years. The mantra has changed. The mantra now is, boy, I'm trying to do better. I'm hoping to be prosperous. I don't mean to use a political phrase, but I'm hoping to be prosperous. So I'm not, in the 70s, people used to say, aspire to help the country. That's it. That is it. The country. We are realistic enough to tell you that you must advance yourself, equip yourself to improve your lot and the lot of your family. And in doing so, you make a contribution to the country, right? A lot of you I know are coming from circumstances where your parents have made a lot of sacrifices for you and they expect some returns, right? They're not send you to high school and university if you can walk up and down and say, yeah, help suffer and yeah, do this and do that. No. You cannot help the country. You cannot help the people of this country unless you yourself are qualified to help yourself, to secure your family, and you make a contribution into the country, right? Now, I'm satisfied. Every time I attend one of these functions, I'm satisfied that the country is in very good hands. And I implore you to continue to educate yourself, to read, and put yourself in a position where when you open your mouth, somebody don't say, fool. Because that cannot help the country, right? You have to advance yourself by reading and preparing yourself, so that when the time comes, you can step into the role of leadership. And don't think that I'm talking to you in a vacuum without example. And that is why I'm very glad that Minister Green is here. And it's not the first time him run election and win. So look at him, talk to him, and hear what he's saying. And it's not necessarily his political party you have to embrace. You just embrace some vehicle that you can use to advance yourself and the country. Thank you very much. If you all want to read it, it's available.
Thank you, President. The Honorable Marisa Dalrymple Philibert, Member of Parliament, Speaker of the House of Representatives.
Thank you very much. Senator, the Honorable Thomas Tavares Finson, President of our Senate. The Honorable Floyd Green, Minister of Agriculture and Fisheries. Other parliamentarians, I don't think so, if there are any other parliamentarians here. Miss Valerie Curtis, Acting Clerk to the Houses of Parliament. Honorable Donna Parchment Brown, Political Ombudsman. Miss Jamie Ann Chevans, Project Coordinator, and other representatives of the National Integrity Action Limited. Mr. Malik Kellier, Chairman, Youth Advisory Council of Jamaica, and other members of the Youth Advisory Council. Staff of the Houses of Parliament and the Ministry of Youth, Education and Information. Members of our Youth Parliament, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. I want to endorse everything that our President of the Senate said. I shared with your Speaker or Prime Minister, leader of government business this morning when we met earlier before the sitting started. I said, one thing I always say, if you go to a church and you notice that all the members in the church look like me, you know it's a dying church. It's when you go and you see the church with a balance and there's this Sunday school is vibrant and full and there are young people. You know there is growth and development. So I endorse all that he has said today about having the youth and having you involved in what takes place in your country. This morning, I'm here as a Speaker of the House to wish you all, on behalf of the House of Representatives, a productive and meaningful meeting of your Youth Parliament here in Jamaica. This year's staging of the Youth Parliament is truly a testament to the resilience of our youth parliamentarians and to your commitment to the responsibility you have as representative of the youth of our country. This year's convening indicates the commitment of the Parliament, the Ministry of Youth, Education and Information to the development of our young people, and specifically to the honing of your leadership skills. The participation of the National Integrity Action in the National Youth Parliament Initiative also attests to the fact that all sectors of society must get involved. We must be involved in helping to mold our youth into our leaders of tomorrow. Most of us, when we think of resilience, we think of the natural ability of the Jamaican people to bounce back from whatever obstacle we face, be it from the time of slavery, to a natural disaster, to economic uncertainty, or even a pandemic, as we are now experiencing. This is true. However, I want to urge you to think more deeply about this element in our makeup, or resilience, and consider resilience as an attribute that needs to be purposely cultivated in our lives. Let us take, for example, the athlete who trains for months and months and even years, and he's training in preparation for one competition. So too, we must and should train our young people, in particular, you or youth, to prepare yourselves for any situation that may arise, instead of simply just relying on our natural reserves of strength and durability and simply saying we're resilient and hoping for the best. We must train you to address any situation with which you're faced. The first step of this process is cultivating a habit of being intentionally aware of significant events around you, whether it be physical, social, or in the economic domains. Fortunately for you, advances in technology today have made it possible for us to be informed in ways that we would not have had some 5 or even 10 years ago. We should also train you as our young people to properly recognize and optimize yourselves in every single situation. Therefore, this morning, I want to encourage you all as young parliamentarians to grasp the opportunities. I want to urge you to think out of the box, and in so doing, build your resilience. I want to recommend that you develop a multiplicity of skill sets so that you're able to function in any situation. This morning, like the President of the Senate, I want to recognize and specially mention as a prime example of a young person who developed a multiplicity of skills and who has prepared himself to lead. And this morning, I make special mention of the Honorable Floyd Green, a young, bright attorney.
Robert is here.
A young, bright attorney who prepared himself to leave. And somehow it must be the mask, because I looked around and I asked and I didn't see the Honorable Robert Nestor Morgan. Are you here, Minister? I also want to welcome and to make special mention of this young man. I remember him from the days, and he was one of the young people who came down to training sessions, even as I was preparing when I was starting, when I had just entered the political arena and I was getting ready for my first election. He was there. And he is a young man who has prepared himself, who is multifaceted, a gentleman who has worked in various areas. He has been in media, he has been the advisor to the PM, he has been all over, and now he holds one of the most important positions in this government. That is, he's a Minister of State in Education and in Education, Youth, and Information. As you all know, the way to prosperity for us all is through education. And he, like the Honorable Floyd Green, is an example that you all need to learn from. These are young people who have given time and learned, become multifaceted, are good in their professions, and they're good in the political arena, and they're here to lead us. And they are indeed the future of this country, like yourselves. So we want to congratulate them and hold them up as an example for you all to follow. The present COVID-19 pandemic has highlighted the importance of focusing on our physical, our mental, and our spiritual health. And so I don't want you to take your youth for granted, and I want you to encourage you and urge you to take care of these often neglected areas and to seek help and take advantage of the resources and the personnel that are available in both public and private sectors. Very often you think you're young, so you can avoid everything. You will shoulder everything. You will look and you see that is not so. You need guidance, you need help. There are challenges as young people. Look after your health. As the President says, you can't lead, you can't help others unless you are able to to look after your own health and your own positions at first. Finally, I want to implore you all to work cooperatively for the benefit of the youth and the people of Jamaica. I just want to say in closing that as good leaders, success demands that you are inclusive and that you garner the cooperation of all the members of your team and the public in general. Remember, as leaders, you need everyone to be successful, and you need the public to buy into, understand, and be with you every step of the way. Every success, therefore, in this sitting of the Youth Parliament, and I look forward to the days when I'm sitting in the rocking chair and I see all of you bright young people as prime ministers, as leaders of government, opposition, and holding positions in the cabinet. I wish you every success for a very fruitful and productive sitting.
As the President of the Senate, I have a certain right and privilege in Parliament, and I'm exercising it now because in my presentation, I did not recognize the Honorable Robert Morgan, Minister of State in the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information. My apologies, Minister. Would you please stand? Take off your mask briefly so that the kids can see you.
That's right.
And so now, here is a young man who I have the greatest of respect for, on a similar vein to Minister Green. Save and except to say, I had a closer association with him because he was a member of the Senate. And when he got up to say thank you to the Prime Minister, he said, I want to say thank you to the President of the Senate who was instrumental in my getting the little work in the Senate. So, Minister, I recommend once again his specialty. As you know, he is legally trained, but I was at the police lockups, so I don't know what that means. so, nobody has anything bad to say about you in the lockup. I was visiting a client. So once again, have a great day. The Speaker and I are going to take our leave so that you can proceed without the eyes of the critical seniors.
Ms. Denise Daly, Member of Parliament, Opposition Spokesperson on Youth, Gender Affairs and Sports, sends her apologies and regards that she's unable to be with us today physically. The Honorable Robert Nestor Morgan, Member of Parliament, Minister of State, Ministry of Education, Youth and Information.
Good morning, everyone. Speaker of the House, Honorable Marissa Dalrymple-Filbert, I'm hoping that you would have pronounced my name the way you pronounced the President. You said Thomas, with such love and affection. Well, I need some more years. President of the Senate, Senator the Honorable Thomas Tavares Finson, Acting Clerk of the Houses of Parliament, Ms. Valerie Curtis, Political Ombudsman, Honorable Donna Parchment-Brown. I will not be seeing you for a very long time. We've only had one occasion and I won't repeat it. Project Manager for the Youth at the NIA, Ms. Jamie Ann Shavans, Youth Parliament Speaker, Minister the Honorable Floyd Green, Minister of Housing, and I'm giving you a promotion. Minister of Agriculture and Fisheries. He's such a great man, like he can do so many things, so pardon me. Staff at the Houses of Parliament, members of the ministry's youth division, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, it's a wonderful occasion today, and I'm very happy to be able to be the minister to oversee this 11th staging of the National Youth Parliament. And I think all of you here should be very appreciative and thankful to be in this position today, representing your communities, your schools, your various groups, representing yourself. So I bring greetings on behalf of the government, on behalf of the ministry, on behalf of the constituents of A Better Place, North Central Clarendon. And I'm particularly pleased in my capacity as Minister of State because young people like myself, I won't tell you my age, have always been a passion for me. I've always, interestingly, in 2013, I was junior opposition spokesperson on education youth with the Honorable Kamina Johnson-Smith. I did not know the Prime Minister had such a long thought process, but I am here and I'm very thankful. But we have something very important to talk about, especially the context in which we exist today. And that is the fact that we exist here in our numbers reduced because of COVID-19. And I think though it has limited us in number, we have to also welcome those virtually. I know they were up earlier. Thank them for being here. It has limited us in number for this Youth Month and for this Parliament. I think we're about 50% reduced because of the Ministry of Health's guidelines. But I do not suspect that a reduction in quantity means a reduction in quality. What I see here is a cohort of well-rounded, articulate, thinking young people. And I think we must give thanks that even in the midst of this pandemic, we are able to gather here to carry on recognizing young people for this Youth Month. So the Youth Month and the Youth Parliament gives us an opportunity to involve young people in different aspects of public life. This hallowed ground is where the government passes legislation. It is where we pass legislation related to your taxes, your welfare, your health. And the fact that you're all sitting here today demonstrates the position the government sees young people in. Not just this government, but previous governments, as it is indeed the 11th staging. But the fact that you're sitting here with the Speaker, the President of the Senate, the acting Clerk of the House, shows the importance that young people play in the development of the nation, especially in this period of COVID. Your views are important to us, and no more than ever, your views are needed in a wide range of issues that affect the country, but more so in this environment where we are facing the most significant challenge to our country since independence of COVID-19. It is young people, as the President says, thinking and energy. That's what we need to move forward, to recover stronger from the current challenges we face. We place significant importance on your involvement, and the policies and laws of the government contemplates consultative processes that involve young people. You would have, some of you, been involved in different national organizations that contribute from time to time to the dialogue on national issues. This month we saw several young persons have articles in the papers which spoke about their views as to some of the things that we can do to recover from COVID and the position of young people in this whole conversation of recovery. Not only that, but young people have participated this month in a wide range of issues such as charity. They have been keeping seminars, teaching themselves about entrepreneurship. Jamaica National has been a big part of that. The National Integrity Action has been a big part of that. And a whole myriad of other stakeholders have participated and contributed in improving the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding of our young people in terms of how the society functions and how they can be a part of it. So, the sitting of the Youth Parliament, and I want you to be conscious of this. It's not just about sitting in a youth parliament. We contemplate that, as the President of the Senate said, as the Speaker said, that you would use this opportunity as a springboard towards greater national involvement. The reality of it is this: young people have always been revolutionizing societies. I could go biblical, as I did at the church service at the beginning of the month. We could go to David, we could go to Jesus. I don't know if there are any Goliaths in the room. But young people historically have always been the change makers that transform societies and make them better. It is natural, young people tend to be more reckless, so they're taking more risks. But the good thing about the current context in which we exist, that even though young people can be reckless and take more risks, people like Tom Finson, who has guided me, have a controlling influence to guide your direction. So while you're taking risks, it is controlled risks. And we as a government, Minister Floyd Green, Speaker, President, offer ourselves as a guiding light. So while you are needed to be revolutionary, we can provide some of the wisdom that you may need to ensure that we have success from your activism. And that is our commitment here today. Do not just see the Youth Parliament as a place to come and sit and not desk. Because fundamentally, you have pride of place by merely sitting here in leading the change for the greater good and the better development of your country. So young people have been participating, and over the years, thousands of young people have taken part in various projects across all the counties and the parishes, and we must salute them and be thankful for that. I know that you will enjoy your participation today, and the ministry has gone beyond the call to ensure that you're comfortable and safe so that you do not end up vulnerable to COVID or other challenges. But I want to talk to you about something else as I close. There is a conversation taking place within our society about the role of young people. It's a constant conversation. It has been happening since time immemorial. And it is, what role can young people play in national development? By virtue of you being here, you're leaders, one would assume. People would not choose you to come here unless they felt that you would not embarrass them and you would come here with confidence and you would articulate positions. So I'm speaking to you and I'm speaking to your followers and your friends. And it is a particularly important conversation as currently Jamaica has a deficit of youth leadership. Not deficit in terms of quantity, because we have a lot of youth leaders, but deficit in terms of impact. How are young people impacting the conversation and action in Jamaica? There is an assumption that, by some, that unless you're on the national platform, you have no impact. I suggest to you that that assumption is wrong. The impact of you as a young leader begins in your home. That is the first place that you can demonstrate leadership. And strangely, or interestingly, the home is the first place of vulnerability in any society. It is where the maladies of the society begin to evolve, transcending into the community. So the first place I think you should practice leadership is in your home. And I suggest to you that if you lead within your home, be a good example. Teach your older siblings or your parents new ways, new thinking, new ideas about how to do things. You will find yourself very prepared to lead your communities, because your better family will be an example in the community. Make sense? So we're at the family, and now we're at the community. You don't need to have national prominence to lead your community, to influence your community. How many of you have set up community groups? How many of you are checking on the elderly in your community? How many of you are finding the kids who are not doing virtual learning to see how you can assist them to access education? That is leadership. It is not the big, glorious national platform. It is the small acts of leadership that can make big impacts. The child you assist could be a future Tom Finson or a future Floyd Green, all because you made one effort at them accessing education. And I suggest, if you lead your communities well, then you can start having national impact. Because at that point, you would have had a context. You would have had a track record of community involvement. People from your community will lift you up and say, I offer him or her to the nation. And the public, which always yearns for good leaders, will say, yes, vetted and assured that you are good. So, do not believe that leadership is this grand thing in and of itself. Leadership moves from a mustard seed to a tree. And you have pride of place today to demonstrate to your families, your communities, to the country that we have strong, aggressive, sensible, knowledgeable, humble future leaders in the national youth cohort. So if there's one thing I ask you to leave here today to do, it is to contemplate, where am I demonstrating leadership? Where am I being an example to other young people and to other adults? Who is looking at me and seeing me as somebody that they could follow? And is the leadership good enough to have good fellowship? Contemplate that today, and you will recognize the awesome responsibility as young leaders you have in this society, and also the awesome power that you have as young people to influence change and to cause positive things to happen in your families, your communities, and your country. The last thing I want to say before I leave is about COVID. And I said earlier that COVID is the greatest challenge we've faced as a society since independence. And the reason why COVID wins is because I suspect slavery was of a greater challenge to us as a people than COVID. Compare that COVID has so upended the national, societal, political, economical ecosystem that it is the greatest challenge we have faced. But it is also the greatest opportunity. And as young people who have the energy, and I suspect the knowledge, you are in the perfect position to take advantage of this opportunity to make the new Jamaica the place that you want it to be. Think about it. The world is scrambling. Nobody knows what to do. There is no template of action. We are in a process where it's trial and error. Lockdown, don't lock down. Christmas, no Christmas. School, no school. What do we do? What is your role in this conversation? What is your role in this action? Are you presenting as young people solutions to the country to assist us as policymakers, as civil servants, as leaders, as to what should we do for the country generally? are for young people. There's a large amount of young people right now who face an uncertain future as they are disconnected from the education system. Many of them do not have internet or tablets. And even some who have tablets do not have electricity. If we as young people, and I'm now mixing myself among you guys, if we as young people do not take control of our future now, then the decisions that are made will not be of us, but merely for us. And if people are making decisions for you, then you have no impact on the direction of the decision. So I am asking you today to recognize the awesome power that you have in shaping a better future for our society. Do not think that because you're young, you have no impact. Andrew Wilness became MP at 25. He overturned a 4,000 vote majority. I will not tell you some of the things that Tom Finson did at 25. Mr. Siaga told me, so I won't share. Floyd Green. And we keep calling Floyd Green. I need to put it on repeat. When I was at UA, we were all a part of the political construct. We were seeking to demonstrate leadership. We both rose through the ranks from the bottom to ascend to where we are now. Not by people liking us or hating us, but I suspect because we have demonstrated to someone, in this case the Prime Minister, that we have something positive to offer to the country. And we present ourselves as examples, not that we have done everything right, but examples of hard work, dedication, honesty, integrity, loyalty, that we can lead something. You all have the opportunity to do the same thing in your various fields. You can lead something. You can lead someone. You can lead a process. You now have the credibility by sitting in this room to lead the change towards a new Jamaica. So I ask you to join me. Join the government. Join civil society. Join the good people of Jamaica in leading a positive change towards a new and better country. Because the reality is, only you can do it. Thank you very much.
This honorable House now resumes its sitting. Statements by ministers.
Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, at a later stage today, I will move for the recommittal of the item statements by ministers to enable us to hear statements from the Prime Minister and the leaders of the opposition.
Thank you, Leader. Announcements.
Laid on the table of the House today are the following. Report from the Youth Parliament County of Cornwall project titled Renovation of the Cornwall Courts Community Centre. Report from the Youth Parliament County of Middlesex County project titled Middlesex Virtual Mental Health Forum. Report from the Youth Parliament County of Surrey project titled National Youth Parliament Surrey County Youth Development Series.
Bills brought from the Senate. petitions, papers, reports from committees, notices of motions given orally. Member Tevin Cameron, Manchester Northeastern.
Madam Speaker, I beg to give notice that at the next meeting of the House, I will move the motion, whereas Jamaica is committed to achieving full and productive employment and decent work for young people and persons with disability by 2030 in keeping with the Sustainable Development Goal 8, and whereas Goal 3 of the 2017 National Youth Policy is to increase youth access to employment and entrepreneurship opportunities. And whereas the data collected prior to the emergence of COVID-19 pandemic, that 28% of Jamaicans between the age of 18 and 29 were employed, and this is likely to be exacerbated by the pandemic. Be it resolved that the National Youth Parliament of Jamaica 2020 debate the accessibility of meaningful employment opportunities for rural youth and policies that govern them, their creation. And be it further resolved that the National Youth Parliament of Jamaica call upon the Youth Advisory Council of Jamaica to make recommendations from this debate to the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information for the government to consider and develop the necessary policies to effect implementation.
Member, your mic.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I further give notice that later today, I will move for the suspension of the standing orders to enable me to take this motion.
Member Letitia White, Manchester Northwestern.
Madam Speaker, I beg to give notice that at the next meeting of the House, I will move the motion, Youth Mental Health, whereas recent statistics indicate 108,000 Jamaicans were treated for mental health issues in a single year, and with COVID-19 expected to lead an increase in mental health cases locally. Be it resolved, the National Youth Parliament of Jamaica 2020 debates strategies to mitigate the short, medium, and long-term impacts of COVID-19 pandemic on the mental health of youth. And be it further resolved, the National Youth Parliament of Jamaica call upon the Youth Advisory Council of Jamaica to make recommendations for the debate to the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information for the government to consider and develop the necessary policies to effect implementation. Madam Speaker, I further beg to give notice that at the later stage today, I will move this suspension of standing orders to enable me to move the motion.
Member Jadon Hewitt, East Central St. James, and Leader of the Opposition.
Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I beg to give notice that at the next sitting of the House, I will move the motion, whereas the Jamaica Teachers Association estimates that only a third of students have had access to online classes during the COVID-19 pandemic, and whereas the pandemic is likely to lead to an economic contraction that will further constrain funding available for expenditure on education. And whereas virtual classes are expected to continue in some form for the new year, which would disadvantage many students. Be it resolved that the National Youth Parliament of Jamaica 2020 debate the current limitations of online classes and ways to improve the accessibility of online education in Jamaica. And be it further resolved that the National Youth Parliament of Jamaica calls upon the Youth Advisory Council of Jamaica to make recommendations from this debate to the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information for the government to consider and develop the necessary policies to effect implementation. Madam Speaker, I further beg to give notion that at a later stage today, I will move for the suspension of the standing orders to enable me to take the motion.
Member Rihanna Robinson, St. Catherine Eastern.
Madam Speaker, I beg to give notice that at the next meeting of the House, I will move the motion whereas the National Youth in Agriculture Policy of 2017 aims to equip youth with the knowledge and skills to participate in the sector and improve the perception of the agricultural sector among youth. Be it resolved that the National Youth Parliament of Jamaica 2020 debate the role of agriculture in the COVID-19 recovery process and the issues faced by youth who are currently involved in the sector. And be it further resolved that the National Youth Parliament of Jamaica call upon the Youth Advisory Council of Jamaica to make recommendations from this debate to the Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries for the government to consider and develop the necessary policies to effect implementation. Madam Speaker, I further beg to give notice that at a later stage today, I will move for the suspension of the standing orders to enable me to make the motion.
Thank you, Member. Questions and answers to questions. Motions that may be made at the commencement of public business requiring notice. Motions relating to sittings of the House. Motions for leave to introduce bills. Presentation of bills without leave of the House first obtained. Public business.
Madam Speaker, I now move for the suspension of the standing orders to enable the members to take the motions, notice of which they gave earlier.
The question is that the standing orders be suspended to enable the members to take the motions, notice of which they gave earlier. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it.
Madam Speaker, the House will be debating 4 motions. For the first motion, we have a total of 6 members debating in the following order: youth unemployment, mental health, education reform, and agriculture.
Member Tevin Cameron, Manchester North Eastern.
Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker, as a young man currently living in rural Jamaica, a tragedy is taking place. From the eastern Portland to the western Westmoreland, there are many young persons who can work but cannot get a job. There are many young people in rural Jamaica who find themselves unable to get a job and unable to move on in life. And it's a tragedy for this country, which is missing out on the huge amount of talent that's located there. Madam Speaker, Jamaica was a star student. She was improving her youth unemployment rate, which saw it declining by 15% in 2013 and a mere 8% in 2019. Just before the outbreak of the pandemic, Madam Speaker, statistics provided by Statin highlights that there were 12,400 persons between the age of 14 and 19 unemployed and 27,600 between the age of 20 and 29 unemployed in January, just in January before the pandemic, Madam Speaker. Regrettably, when the COVID-19 test came, the economy crashed and youth unemployment spiraled to a high of 44%. But, Madam Speaker, the opposition has come to the rescue. We have a solution. Our solution is to incentivize private sector companies to open and operate businesses in rural Jamaica that will employ rural youth. Our incentive mechanism would take the form of a 5 to 10% reduction on the company's income tax liability each year for employing these persons. Madam Speaker, it has worked in Zimbabwe, it has worked in Ethiopia, it has worked in Australia, and then it must work in Jamaica. To operationalize this tax incentive, all the appropriate government and non-governmental agencies should meet and finalize and work out the finer details. This framework will then be published through regulations that would target employers who meet certain conditions. Two of these conditions are they must be registered for income tax and must be compliant with the preceding tax period. This form of incentive is available to all industries, including manufacturing and agro-processing, just to name a few, and no requirement is placed on the length of unemployment of the eligible youth. You see, Madam Speaker, we are seeking to create more jobs in a sustainable manner for our rural youth. The formula is simple: more unemployment, more revenues. Madam Speaker, to reduce the displacement of older workers that might result from this policy, we recommend imposition of the appropriate financial penalty per employee displaced. Penalties should also be imposed on companies that claim workers who are being paid less than minimum wage. Madam Speaker, our rural youth is a part of the future. They are part of the future. They can make the difference with the skills and the talents they possess. We on this side, and what I've presented to this House, and what my other speakers on this side of the House will continue to do, is to present pragmatic and feasible approaches to solve the problem of rural unemployment. Madam Speaker, before I pause, let me just say this. The solutions coming forth have tried, they're tested, and proven. The opposition pause.
Member Ashani Daniel Granville, West Rural St. Andrew, Minister of Finance and the Public Service.
Madam Speaker, on Wednesday, September 30th, the Prime Minister officially launched Phase 2 of the Jamaica Social Investment Fund's Rural Economic Development Initiative. This program aims to improve both the agricultural and tourism sectors and enhance access to markets and strengthen climate resilience approaches for targeted beneficiaries. Madam Speaker, this initiative is only the tip of the iceberg of what we need to achieve in order to advance the socio-economic realities of our young people. Madam Speaker, opportunities need to start knocking on the doors of youth in rural Jamaica. That means that we must begin to grow our industries in such a way where St. Mary's bananas are grown locally in St. Mary and the corresponding banana chips and the banana bread mixes are manufactured in food processing facilities locally in St. Mary as well, and not in some Central American food processing facilities. Madam Speaker, permit me to point out that most of our locally grown food is grown in rural Jamaica. But most of our food processing facilities are found in urban Jamaica. We intend to exercise more economically sound judgment now that we are in government by pointing out the obvious cost benefits of having the food processing facilities closer to the raw material sources, saving on transportation and on storage, as well as having less spoilage and wastage due to the availability of freshly grown food produce. It must be noted that food processing and manufacturing are often viewed as industries where low-skilled and inexperienced persons can find a job. Madam Speaker, these low-skilled and inexperienced persons are oftentimes young persons fresh from out of high school, armed with their subjects and seeking opportunities in the world of work. What I am proposing on behalf of this government is that, similar to our efforts through the Factories Corporation of Jamaica to build facilities for the BPO sector.
Your time is almost up, so please wrap it up a little bit.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We must invest and build food processing facilities in every parish. Think of it, dairy processing facilities in Portland and St. Thomas, fine wines in St. James, branded world-class food facilities in Old Harbour, St. Catherine, and recreational marijuana in Westmoreland. In closing, Madam Speaker, our duty as a productive and proactive government is to incentivize MSMEs to tap into the markets by supporting them with investments in capital, world-class research and development, tax incentives, and access to export markets and resources. Madam Speaker, I thank you and I yield the floor.
Member Justine Smith, Westmoreland Central, Shadow Minister, Health and Wellness.
Madam Speaker, youth underemployment, unemployment, and a lack of emphasis on youth entrepreneurship is a dangerous disease that continues to plague youth who are trying to make it in the working world. Too many Jamaican youth are unemployed or underemployed. Imagine leaving school with 8, 10, even 20 subjects and a degree, only to be left jobless. They say education is the key to success, yet youth obtain the education without the elevation. Let us look at one of the main reasons youth are underemployed: the competitiveness of the job market. The issue is not that youth are unqualified, it is the choice of jobs. Madam Speaker, instead of focusing on jobs that are currently making money, what needs to happen is job mapping, allowing the youth to undertake professions that will be needed in the next 5 to 10 years. Take COVID-19, for example. It has emphasized the importance of mental health, which means that more social workers will be needed. We would like to propose that the government encourage universities to research the jobs that will be more viable in the near future. This would allow youth to choose fields that are likely to provide not only employment for them, but substantial employment that would significantly reduce underemployment and meet societal needs. Madam Speaker, in addition to job mapping, this Parliament recommends legislation that would help to foster youth entrepreneurship. Legislation where training in entrepreneurship is mandatory in schools as both a theoretical and a practical subject. This will foster creativity and innovation, allowing them to create their own jobs, their own streams of income filled with passion, and in turn boosting the economy. Let us not forget about our rural youth. They will have the opportunity to venture entrepreneurially in the fields of agriculture and tourism, again, fueling economic growth. Madam Speaker, if by 2030, Jamaica really intends to become the place of choice to live, work, raise families, and do business, we must formulate the vaccine to this youth unemployment disease. We must take action. We must tackle this disease before it ruins more lives. Madam Speaker, entrepreneurship and job mapping are the solution. The opposition pauses for a while.
Member Demetrius Robe, St. Andrews Southern, Minister of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport.
Madam Speaker, the orange economy, or the creative economy, is one of the key strategies to Jamaica's sustainable development. UNESCO defines it as the bringing together of sectors whose main purpose is the production, promotion, and dissemination of goods, services, and activities that have cultural, artistic, and patrimonial content. Youth employment plays a critical role in the sustainability of our labor force, as our key resource would be our people. As it stands, there has been tremendous growth in the BPO industry, now known as the global sector services industry. To date, approximately 30,000 youth are formally employed within this sector. This is remarkable. However, we still experience inequalities within the labor force, where youth from the rural area are not able to attain equal access to these opportunities because call centers are predominantly located in parishes such as Kingston and St. Andrew, Manchester, or St. James. Both graduates and youth who may not have gone through the formal education system either feel uncomfortable within a call center environment or may not possess the innate skills to serve in customer service. Yes, we've been flaunting our growth within this sector. However, growth tends to be lopsided as there is an inclination within only certain aspects of society. Madam Speaker, there are even more ways in which we can attract foreign trade. The PR Newswire Association, that's a research company based in London, stated that the lucrativeness of the creative economy is hidden in plain sight. This industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and if we as a nation are able to secure even a small percentage of that, then it will be a game changer for our economy. So what exactly am I proposing? I'm proposing that we use the orange economy to create more job opportunity for youth. We have the culture, we have the talent, but we do not need the excuses. Countries such as Australia currently place a great emphasis on this. Even in the Caribbean, Puerto Rico and Trinidad and Tobago, they rank high in reforms to improve business climate in the Caribbean and Latin America. We can even recall that approximately 500 nationals would have gotten the opportunity to work on the James Bond film that was screened in Jamaica in April of last year. What if this was done frequently? We should also introduce more competitive tax incentives for the creative trade, apart from what is provided in the Novel Screen Fund initiative. International companies are repulsed by our high tax rate and cost of living.
Your time, please wrap up.
And have successfully moved their business elsewhere. For example, a Jamaican film, Home Alone, was shot in Trinidad. So, Madam Speaker, we need to invest more in our economy. We cannot allow Trinidad and Tobago to steal all our monies that we would have gainfully have rights to, because we have a more dominant culture. So if we invest more in this aspect of society, the creative economy, then we'll be able to create more opportunities for the youth in our nation. I thank you.
Member Sashana Davy, Trelawney Northern, Shadow Minister of Education and Training.
Madam Speaker, underemployment and unemployment are two main problems affecting the youth of Jamaica, and the National Youth Parliament of Jamaica has the solution. Madam Speaker, the sector which will boost the contracting economy of Jamaica both during and after the COVID-19 pandemic is agriculture. In 2019, the Planning Institute of Jamaica reported that agriculture, forestry and fishing industry improved by 0.5%, but growth was stymied by drought conditions. The Minister of Agriculture and Fisheries, Honorable Floyd Greed, stated, "One of the things we have to do is incorporate more youth who are interested and give them a clear pathway to which they can participate." I present to the House, Madam Speaker, the concept of greenhouse facilities being issued to the youth of the rural areas. This policy has been accurately planned and the execution will be carried out to the utmost excellence. Madam Speaker, we aim to build 1,000 greenhouse facilities for the rural youth of Jamaica as a trial run to plant crops such as tomato, pepper, lettuce, and sweet pepper, as well as those that can be produced with superior quality. Now I know what you are thinking, and that is, it is costly, and how are we going to afford it? The plan is, Madam Speaker, to create a partnership with the National Solid Waste Management Authority and all its branches to have a plastic bottle recycle drive with the communities in their region. We are expecting to build greenhouses of a 10 by 20 structure, and this will need approximately 3,300 bottles for each. This plan is effective, and how do I know that this is so? Because I have attained first-hand experience, Madam Speaker, as a past student of the William D. Memorial High School who took on this initiative a long time ago and was actually successful in the completion. So I know the benefits of this policy, which are a longer growing season even in cold weather, little to no impact of daily weather condition on the growth of crops, and health benefits to consumers due to the organic nature of the process. The youth participating will also earn as consumers among willing to purchase local or organic produce. So, Madam Speaker, what we need is to look at this old issue in a new day, not simply for today, but to make our tomorrows more rewarding and more compelling. Because of the changes we make today, the opposition rests its case.
Member J. Lewis, Clarendon, Southeastern.
Madam Speaker, as I continue to focus on a being that many took for granted, including myself, the good old castor oil that is grown widely across Jamaica, where I witnessed my grandmother pick, parch, bottled, and sold as hair treatment or hair product. The castor oil industry today is worth millions as it is lauded as a remedy for hair loss and has other application in the cosmetic industry. Jamaica is poised to benefit from this lucrative industry as castor oil is enriching our culture and is lauded as one of the best in the world. However, the sad truth is that many of the castor oil that products that is labeled Jamaican are not actually product of Jamaica, are not actually product that is produced in our country, which simply proves that there is indeed great demand for the product. In addition, it is well used in industries such as biofluid blends, lubricants, medical purposes, brake liquids, and other products. By developing the castor oil market, Madam Speaker, this would lead to economic opportunities while maximizing the rural youth potential in this groundbreaking industry, whereas they would be able to earn fresh cash. While helping young people to optimally harvest the benefit of this industry, they should be provided with training in business management, marketing, financial literacy, and entrepreneurship. Madam Speaker, based on an article that was published in the Gleaner titled Jamaican Black Castor Oil Market Mostly Exploited by Foreigners, highlighted that the United States alone stand at US 20 million, but our local producers are only tapping into a small fraction of the business, according to a study by Compete magazine. As I conclude, Madam Speaker, Minister Morgan, who was a rural constituency, can tell you that the rural youth are tired to be told that we are the future. We are here and we are the now. I recommend the Science Research Council, Madam Speaker, to explore the industry while pushing the government to regulate this industry under JACRA. This, Madam Speaker, will protect our local producers, especially targeting the youth. Let us secure the interests of the little rural youth, like Mass Storm, Grand Pitney them down the Black River, that to ensure that they too can benefit from this $20 million market. Thank you.
Member Kevin Cameron.
Madam Speaker, we have heard arguments coming from both sides of the House. We can say that governments presented good ideas, but we on opposition side believe that ours were better. And so, Madam Speaker, at this time, we advise or recommend that the National Youth Advisory Council of Jamaica make the necessary recommendations on the things that we have, the policy that we have presented to this House, to the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information. Madam Speaker, I now move that the motion be agreed to.
The question is that the motion be agreed to. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. Member Letitia White, Manchester Northwestern.
Speaker of the House, fellow youth parliamentarians, greetings. Did you know that half of mental health conditions emerge by age 14? What this tells us, the youth population is at a greater risk and exposure to mental challenges. These challenges are influenced by various injurious and sad situations that are escalated due to the extended homestay and social distancing of youth caused by distant learning policies forced upon us by COVID-19. According to the World Health Organization, youth are subjected to stigma and discrimination daily, which leads to depression, suicide, and fear to access mental health services. Madam Speaker, I start firstly by addressing the issue of depression. According to a 2016 gap analysis report from UNICEF, revealed that depression is the single most common mental health problem among adolescents. My personal experience was a traumatic one. For weeks, I was saddened. Because like majority of university students, I encountered financial challenges. Madam Speaker, this is not unique to me. Many other young people are facing the exact issue. This was before the pandemic. Now, imagine how that problem has worsened. Moreover, I draw your attention to a recent news of a girl who was fallen victim of suicide. Jasmine Keeling took her own life on August 31st, 2020. She would have had the opportunity of contributing to the development of our society. Sadly, she's gone. Madam Speaker, mental health is real, as it is happening now. Madam Speaker, we have seen where the Ministry of Education established hotlines for children and adolescents to report or share information if experiencing any symptoms connected with mental health challenges. A commendable effort, however, it is lacking. Madam Speaker, my question is this. What about the concerned observers? Think about it. We here recommend the implementation of a mental health program called Neighbor MH Alert. This online community-based program will bring awareness to the signs of suicidal behavior of adolescents in remote areas, but not limited to. In the form of a 24-hour hotline that allows concerned observers to call and seek help for young persons suspected of undergoing mental challenges. In closing, youth mental health is important. We all should play our part by ensuring our young people are not deprived, discriminated against, and ignorant about the health benefits offered. We must ensure that mental services are far more accessible to those affected by this scourge. I thank you.
Member Marlene Campbell from St. Thomas Western and Minister of Labor and Social Security.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Greetings, member of this honorable House. Madam Speaker, the monster of mental health has been plaguing the youth of our society for far too long now. We must ensure that they receive help in coping with and navigating the challenges that comes with mental health. These challenges will have profound impacts on their ability to become successful parents, professionals, and leaders of our great nation. The World Health Organization defines mental health as a state of well-being in which the individual realizes his or her own ability and can cope with the normal stresses of life. It was Glenn Close who said, "What mental health needs is more sunlight, more candor, and more unashamed conversations. A 2019 U Report poll among young Jamaicans showed that 53% of youth indicated that they had considered suicide. 53%. This number has worsened by the restrictions introduced to curtail COVID-19. Isolation and reduced social interactions are the new norm. The reality is, our rural youth are even more affected by this pandemic, as they have limited or no access to technological devices, physical and mental health facilities. Madam Speaker, imagine, just about 20 days ago, a 9-year-old boy from the rural community of Mason Hall in St. Mary he suffered the heaviest loneliness, the emptiest of despair, and the burden of isolation was found hanging from a window grill with a blanket tied around his neck. Madam Speaker, we are not paying enough attention to the mental health of our youth in our society. Madam Speaker, pound of fret can't buy ounce of debt. We need more mental health staff in the rural communities to protect our disenfranchised youth. Our Jamaican health centers are ranked from type 1 to 5 based on the services offered in these centers. Mental health units and staff are available at type 5 health centers in the urban areas, but type 1 and 2 in the rural areas do not have these available. Mental health counsellors are not readily accessible to youth in the rural communities. It is unreasonable, Madam Speaker, to ask rural youth to travel to and from urban areas. Madam Speaker, where do we expect them to get the funds to travel to urban areas with the reality of job losses since the inception of COVID-19? Therefore, we are recommending that mental health staff are available at type 1 and 2 health facilities in the rural areas at least once per week to facilitate the improvement of youth mental health. We must ensure that we make the mental health system in Jamaica more attractive. Over the years, there has been an immense brain drain in the mental health workers as they leave the country in search of a better salary. On that premise, we are proposing that budgetary positions be reallocated to facilitate better
Member, your
payment
time
packages.
has almost elapsed. I urge you to conclude shortly.
To facilitate better payment packages for social workers and psychologists. With these implementations, we will see increased physical access to counseling for rural youth who currently have no options. Madam Speaker, the youth are the now. If youth suffer, our country suffers. Youth mental health is a monster that must be slain. We have the sword to ensure that we slay this monster of mental health through reallocation of budgetary positions to our mental health facilities and an increase in our mental health workers. I thank you.
Member Amanda Anderson from St. Catharines Southern and Opposition Spokesperson on Industry, Competitiveness and Global Logistics.
Due to the lack of prominence with Jamaican Sign Language, there are barriers to communications with family members and public service workers. This lack of efficient communication negatively impacts the mental health of our deaf youth. The team from the Jamaica Deaf Youth Advocacy assisted with my research and found that 18 out of 19 of our deaf youth suffer from mental health issues due to lack of support. This is only natural as the Jamaican society is not equipped to aid with members from the disability community, especially the deaf community. Madam Speaker, we see evidence of this with the educational programs that are broadcast during the COVID period. We are visual learners, and yet even the visual medium, such as television, do not make provision for the deaf community. There is no Jamaican Sign Language, and so we cannot engage in an efficient manner. Let me attempt to show you how this inaccessibility can lead to mental health issues. Madam Speaker, I want you to close your eyes and imagine yourself at home. Your family is there, but they are all speaking in Spanish and you only speak English. You try to communicate, but they don't understand you, and you don't understand them. 1 week passes, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. By the 4th week, I am sure you must be going out of your mind, being locked up with those people who you can't communicate with. Can you imagine that awful feeling? This is exactly what the deaf community undergoes every day. This continuous pressure and frustration is no doubt a major cause to the astronomical level of mental health issues in the community. Madam Speaker, this is how I propose we solve this mammoth issue. First, all essential and public service workers should receive formal training and experience with Jamaican Sign Language. This will allow for quick communications in times of crisis or need, which in turn will alleviate the frustration faced by the community when requesting the help they need. This policy will further improve the mental health of the community by providing a peace of mind that there is an appreciation and understanding for them. That in time of crisis, they will not have to fear something as fundamental as communication. Secondly, I propose that we implement the Jamaican Sign Language as a subject in schools with proficiency ranging from levels 1 to 4 by introducing the basic level of the language at a young age and having the proficiency increase in accordance to age and scholastic level. We will be able to organically, over time, produce a society not only versed in Jamaican Sign Language, but with a deeper appreciation for the deaf community. The benefit of this is clear. The mental health issue caused by isolation and the lack of communication faced by the deaf community will, over time, organically and naturally dissipate. Schools will produce doctors, psychologists, emergency technicians who are able to efficiently communicate with the deaf, thereby eliminates the barrier to communication that currently exists.
Member Sanisha Parsons from St. James West Central and Minister of Health and Wellness.
Some people spend time climbing mountains, but others spend time carrying them. Jamaica needs to cater to both.
Imagine, because of COVID-19, children are now stuck at home with predators from which school once provided a safe haven. Suicide expert Dr. Donovan Thomas gets at least one call daily from a child who is contemplating ending his life. The government should institute a program where social workers routinely check on children in all areas to ensure that they are being taken care of appropriately. What happens, Madam Speaker, when someone, anyone, does not have the courage to report a case of abuse? What then happens to the children whose cases go unreported? This may not be the norm in other countries. However, for every good recommendation, there had to be the first implementation. Let us use this program to reduce the number of child abuse cases that go unreported while creating jobs for our qualified unemployed youth. Let's provide a safe environment for our youth, both outside of and in their homes. They need to feel comforted, knowing that even where friends and family may fail them, this system, this government, still cares. Let's provide a swift policy, social worker inspection, and future training for children so as to provide earlier detection of cases of child abuse and child neglect. Imagine a Jamaica where our children are protected both by law and in reality. Imagine a Jamaica where our youth are not a victimized minority. A Jamaica where we not only preach children are the future, but we also display it in our legal framework and our actions. Madam Speaker, with the decriminalization of marijuana and little to no health promotion on its medical effects, believe me, youth mental health is in trouble. Although Jamaican law dictates that only adults should be able to purchase marijuana products, underage youth are not restricted by local salespersons. Madam Speaker, in efforts to drive commercialization and to support a booming economy, have we condemned our youth? Their underdeveloped brains do not possess the physical capacity and the capability to manage the effects. Too often, mental health staff are contacted to manage a young person who is personifying a madman due to marijuana. It is recommended that we develop a GET policy, G-E-T, ganja education training, so that we can effectively manage the factors and mitigate the effects. Remember, Madam Speaker, mental health affects everyone. This society is nothing without its people, and the people will be a reflection of their holistic state of health. Your thoughts can destroy you far more than any blade ever could. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Member Benjamin Cook from St. Catherine Southern and the leader of Opposition Business and Local Government.
Madam Speaker and members of this honorable House, the writing is on the wall, and many choose to ignore. But it is clear that there's another pandemic in Jamaica, mental illness. The truth is, whichever lens this issue is viewed through, Jamaica has a big problem. Madam Speaker, we have heard my fellow members' contribution earlier, and I am eager to add my voice and recommendations to the issue of mental illness. Now, the Ministry of Health and Wellness has indicated that up to 25% of the country will have to contend with a mental illness. This, for the members of the opposition, is worrying. Additionally, a study conducted by the late psychiatrist Professor Fred Hicklings revealed that 40% of Jamaica suffered some form of mental condition. And with the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, this number will continue to rise. Madam Speaker, myself and the members of this honorable opposition believe that we must shift focus and pay greater attention to mental health. The truth is that mental health is just as important as physical health. It is with this in mind that we, the opposition, hereby recommends the following. 1, there must be an increased focus on mental health education and training. We are of the view that this Honorable House must start by implementing mental health first aid training. This initiative has proven itself in Wales, where participants increase their ability to identify high and low prevalence of mental disorder. If Jamaica should implement such an initiative, the benefits will be twofold: the reduction in money spent treating persons with mental illness, and the reduction in cases of non-communicable disease that stem from that same mental illness. 2, we recommend that the government explores e-mental services. Madam Speaker, e-mental health involves leveraging the internet and related technologies such as smartphone apps, websites, and social media to deliver mental health services. While we accept that e-mental health may not completely solve the treatment gap, it has the potential to address the treatment gap faced by youth trying to access mental health care. Madam Speaker, we have heard a lot today, and one thing remains clear: we need to do more. I thank you.
Member LaShawn Mills from St. Andrew East Central and Minister of Agriculture and Fisheries.
Madam Speaker, as I rise in this honorable house today, I rise with sadness. Saddened because of the reality of mental illness across the island, but even more so, saddened about the far-reaching latitude among our youth. This global pandemic has made the mental health issue worse among our youth. Madam Speaker, during this pandemic, I know of many children and youth who have been frustrated by the fact that all in-person interaction with their friends has been put on hold due to the social distancing measures that are indeed necessary for our safety. Some have reacted with depression, while others have demonstrated elevated level of aggression. The statistics are yet to catch up with the body of anecdotal evidence, but we see it on social media. We see it in our communities. The voice notes, the videos circulated of children and youth expressing frustration provided some comedic relief to these hard times. But I call upon the citizens of this country and the government not to lose out on the deeper issue of Sheldon's request for a break. Madam Speaker, the little girl who lamented with tears, "Me tired a good job." As comedic this may be, this is a clear indication of the deeper mental health issue. Madam Speaker, these are signs of breakdown in the mental health because this is where we'll see a change in their behavior. Reports have shown that there are 9-day treatment facilities available in the country, of which none are accessible to children and adolescents. We need to increase safe spaces for our youth and increase support for the existing infrastructure. The Youth Innovation Center, the first of which was established in 2003, have been safe havens for our youth, where they can explore their talents, build friendship, and connect with positive mentors. According to the World Health Organization, in keeping with the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, create safe and sustainable communities for young people, contributes to improving their general health and well-being. Spaces for peer communication, free of pressure. Bullying provides many health benefits for our youth. Madam Speaker, communities that include physical and leisure activities tailored specifically to the needs of adolescents can help young people avoid risky behavior. It also helps to improve their health and well-being, achieve their full potential with benefits of youth themselves and society at large. Madam Speaker, the truth is, several of these centers established are struggling. Some are no longer in operation because of poor funding and management. The Kingston and St. Andrew Innovation Center has been closed for years. Madam Speaker, We are calling on the government to renew the commitment for... We are calling on the government to renew its commitment to funding YICs and ensuring
Member,
that
your time has almost elapsed. Please conclude soon.
ensuring that they are properly and sustainable managed, invest in maintaining physical infrastructure, hire competent staff, which includes counselors, that the YIC can be consistently open and operate as a strategic mechanism to assist youth in maintaining a good mental health. I thank you.
Member Letitia White from Manchester Northwestern.
Madam Speaker, the Minister Marlene Campbell mentioned that there needs to be more mental health workers in the rural areas. Madam Speaker, it seems as if that side of the House is clueless about the severity of the COVID-19 impact it has currently. There are currently shortage of health workers in the islands. Our recommendation is that there needs to be more training and employment of health workers, alleviating the issue across the mental health services for our young people. With that said, Madam Speaker, I now move that the motion be agreed to.
The question is that the motion be agreed to. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. Member J. Don Hewitt from St. James East Central and leader of the opposition and opposition spokesperson on planning and development.
Madam Speaker, this pandemic has exacerbated and accentuated our inability as a country to effectively educate and deploy our nation's students while simultaneously ensuring that they are equipped with the skills they need to be contributors to the advancement of the whole human race. We have struggled with trying to move the chalk and talk into the digital space, but given our challenges, that is not the answer, Madam Speaker. Notwithstanding the multiple lives that this pandemic has claimed, it has paved the way for what our constituents have been beseeching us to do, and that is education reform. Madam Speaker, according to the World Economic Forum, Finland takes a top spot on the development pillar due to efforts to educate, skill, and upskill the student body and the working age population through its phenomenal primary through to tertiary institutions and overall phenomenal education system. A deeper dive into the Finnish education system reveals its prioritization of practical lessons with real-world applications, at least one skill and a second language. Unlike in Jamaica, where the curriculum sees students drowning in abstraction, in Finland, meaningless concepts such as trigonometry are brought to life in very practical manners. We, the opposition, humbly recommend that partnerships with our allies in China, who also value skills training, $100 million be diverted to making the hard trust NSTA a university. Secondly, Madam Speaker, we propose reforming our education system to make it 50% skills-based and 50% practical to increase our human capital development of our people development. With the inclusion of practical knowledge, the problem with the retention of the lessons will be significantly decreased. And if anybody here knows what the major challenge is in our current status quo, it is the retention of lessons that students are not coping with at all. With a skilled labor force, we'll be better able to tap into global markets to increase our earnings of foreign exchange, making the country better able to alleviate much of the issues our people are plagued by. We also recommend a constitutionally free education system up to the post-secondary level, where each and every secondary student from basic through to the post-secondary, that is sixth form level, can access education for free. Through the increase in the development of our economy, through skills training and the creation of employment, and the advertent revenue that will be generated, the country will be better able to finance and sustain, most importantly, an endeavor of this magnitude. We can provide comprehensive, universal education for all our citizens by getting our private sector to also support this endeavor through financial contributions to our schools. Can you imagine what an increased skilled labor force will do for our tourism sector? Tourism product, Madam Speaker. The possibilities from this reformation and inclusion being proposed by the learned members of the opposition contains inclusion of skills and teaching in a practical context. This, Madam Speaker, the possibilities are endless.
Member, your time has almost elapsed.
Understood. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I close with saying, it is not the strongest or the most intelligent who will survive, but those who can best manage change. Leon C. McGinson. Madam Speaker, I read this chapter and complete this test so you can get a great status quo is not our way to go. I digress.
Member Ariane Roxburgh from St. Catherine Northwestern and Minister of Tourism.
Good afternoon, Madam Speaker, and the honorable members of this House. The United Nations Policy Brief, COVID-19 Education Beyond and During, highlights that the COVID-19 pandemic is amplifying pre-existing education disparities by reducing the opportunities for many of the most vulnerable youth, those living in poor or rural areas, and persons with disabilities to continue their learning. Emerging from this unprecedented disparity is the demand for soft skills training within our current virtual learning platforms, increased accessibility to remote learning for disabled youth, and the latest in education policy in tandem with Sustainable Development Goals 4 and 10 for Jamaica youth. Exchange
Member, your mic.
Primary skills need to be focused on emotional intelligence and service orientation. Therefore, Madam Speaker, I implore the government of Jamaica to take into consideration the following recommended measures in conjunction with Goal 1 of the 2017 to 2030 National Youth Policy. Measure 1, expanding the soft skills framework by introducing service orientation skills training as an after-school activity or subject area, establishing a mobile unit to access rural areas through public-private partnerships with the government of Jamaica and the Soft Skills International Training Institute, and the development of disability-friendly software interfaces to engage disabled youth for the purposes of face-to-face and online teaching. Measure 2, building mighty learners. This will see the introduction of the learn-to-learn policy at all educational institutions in Jamaica. It will be implemented through the training of tertiary students within JAMVAT to be deployed into schools and integrated into online classrooms to engage both students and teachers alike. This policy will help youth learn focus and goal orientation skills as they cope with the distractions and the varying dynamics of the home environment, remote learning, and the phased reopening of schools. Madam Speaker, the benefits of implementing these recommendations are, but not limited to, the following. It will improve training and educational mechanism for building the skills of youth to ensure they flourish in the projected digital trajectory of the labor market, foster social inclusion of differently abled youth, and lastly, it will diversify the education system by bolstering an increase in the EQ of our students. Through these recommendations, it is my hope that the government of Jamaica renews its commitment to ensuring that Jamaican youth receive accessible, world-class education and reaffirm the belief that every child can learn and every child must learn during and after the coronavirus pandemic.
Member Roderick Chance from St. Andrew Western, an opposition spokesperson on finance and the public service.
Madam Speaker, today, as those who join us virtually are facing challenges, so too do our students. Modern-day students have been unplugged from the conventional modalities of learning. They are now desperately grasping to connect to the digital environment. The educational system has been struggling. However, COVID-19 threatens its decimation. From basic and primary level students to recent graduates entering the workforce, students are firewalled from adequately accessing high-quality education in the digital landscape. Madam Speaker, two great areas that policies need to address are lecturers' ability to sufficiently understand the edutechnological platforms and using its capacity to effectively transfer knowledge to students. Also, implementing robust modular assessment tools that are comprehensive enough to adequately evaluate students' educational growth and potential. One such tool for effectively evaluating technological literacy of educators is by using the TSAT model. This was developed by the Boston Public Schools and further improved upon by the Education Technology Advisory Council of Massachusetts. By including the TSAT model into the necessary requirements of becoming a certified educator, including reassessments done every 2 to 4 years, educators will become functionally trained in edutech platforms. Along with the TSAT model, Madam Speaker, innovative software specifically designed to optimize schooling assessments can be utilized. Software such as Crossover are able to prevent students from leaving the test space on their computers and devices. Failure to do so would result in them failing these tests. Also, this environment would prevent the use of screenshots and copy and paste toolkits that could inadvertently aid cheating. No solution solves all problems, Madam Speaker. However, this software solution provides the most benefits with the least drawbacks. With that being said, the only conceivable cheating mechanism would be identifying specific pages that the answers would be within textbooks. If cheating is going to push students into checking specific pages in textbooks, Madam Speaker, we believe this may invite students into studying. In closing, after observing the realities and challenges faced by students during this digital divide, we believe employing an educator-edutech illiteracy and weak assessment protection software, the operating system of virtual learning will become the new standard. I rest my case.
Member Tamoy Campbell from St. Andrew Western and Minister of Justice.
Madam Speaker, the narrative is here, but it has left out rural students. The reality is that the pinning them will live behind a God back are often displaced and are almost wading through hell and high water in order for them to receive their education. This government will not sit here and allow that to go on any longer. That is why we are proposing Education on Wheels, a new device that's not a tablet or a computer, but simply a van or a vehicle. Education on Wheels will target the most rural of communities. It's a collaborative effort with the Youth Innovation Centers, and it's putting the Community Blackboard Initiative on the national scale. Now, Madam Speaker, this also happens in the Philippines, where the Mobile Supervised Neighborhood Play initiative provides materials, learning tools, and other equipment to facilitate the learning, all in a minivan. Then, 4 trained volunteers that conduct 2 two-hour sessions 3 times a week go to these 4 small villages in the Philippines. And to further that, Madam Speaker, they offer nutrition packages to fill the tummies of the students and train the members of the family. Now, Madam Speaker, if a country like the Philippines, with an economy and a human development index lower than Jamaica, can do this, what are we waiting on? The Ministry of Education can reallocate the funds from the $1.7 billion purse that is spent on tablets and computers to augment the first phase of the Education on Wheels. We suggest that we will be using the mobile units to facilitate teaching and learning. Volunteer teachers or retired teachers, plus a teacher must be equipped to teach students with disabilities because, of course, we are an inclusive government in tandem with SDG number 10. This initiative has a collaboration phase, so we're working with the YICs and they're going to be helping to provide the materials. And we're pushing the Community Blackboard Initiative on another level to help the teachers who volunteer to do this to be able to be easily mobilized. And then there's a partnership and sustainability phase. NGOs, we're calling on you. International partners, I know you hear our voices. We're asking you in cash or in kind to come and support Education on Wheels. Because, Madam Speaker, if the Ministry of Justice can bring the law to your houses with their mobile units, and then the Bashibus crew can be the first mobile health unit to safeguard your sexual and reproductive health, what is education waiting on? An epiphany? Well, here I am. Now, Madam Speaker, this idea is pretty novel. In my hand, you see a plastic bottle, but I guess you never thought that this could turn into this. Well, that is true. Plastics for tech. In Haiti, we're using the partnership of Next Wave, an amalgamation of tech companies such as HP and Dell. They're going to Haiti and use recycled plastic bottles to help build their computers. And in fact, if you think I'm joking, you can order your new HP Elite Dragonfly, the very first laptop computer that uses plastic. What we're proposing is that Jamaica jumps on this bandwagon and invests in this initiative. We will be using our own plastic, recycling and having our own washing supply, and trade it with Next Wave, who is very open to partnership and working with Jamaica. Because guess what? If they work with countries like Cambodia, Vietnam, and other huge plastic emitters, but more so developing nations, they are waiting with open arms to embrace Jamaica. It's new, it's innovative, which is what Rethink is all about. And I know it's novel, but this government isn't afraid to take bold and unafraid steps. We want to champion newness using plastics to help fill the deficit where tablets and devices are existing. And what will happen when we trade with Next Wave is that they will build the computers on our behalf and sell it to us at a subsidized cost. So the pitting them will live behind in a God backyard or in concrete jungle like myself will never have to play a referee match between learning and understanding what it is. Madam Speaker, you seem like you're queuing to me.
Yes.
I will wrap up shortly, Madam Speaker. In closing, the reality is that students every day are in a referee match as both internet service providers compete for the most ineffective. And the students in concrete jungle and in the most remote areas, they need to learn and want to learn. With Education on Wheels and using plastic as a new way forward, we're keeping plastic out of the ocean and in our economy, and we're ensuring that every child can learn and will learn. Thank you very much.
Member Tavoy Barrett from St. Thomas Eastern and Opposition Spokesperson on National Security.
Madam Speaker, the presenters who have presented before me would have already spoke about how difficult it is to actually access classes. But I think one of the areas that we are missing out on is accessing administrative services. Let's go back to when school was in physical mode. Think about the frustration it takes to actually get through to someone from the financing department. Or get through to someone from a department now that is more essential, the IT department. A department where you are no longer able to get through or get help from. Before the transition to online school, it could possibly take the average university student between 1 day and an entire semester to get access to admin services such as student financing, admissions and enrollment, student services, among others. Since the landfall of COVID-19, this wait time has now been transitioned to an estimated between 1 semester and never. There needs to be more help for the transitioning into the new realities of COVID-19 for these administrative services. And like the member earlier said, so that the children who live behind a God box can access these services regardless of their lack of access to resources. The online learning environment increased the pressure for some students attempting to gain access to these services, particularly those in deep rural areas. As some institutions continue the reconstruction of their processes to fit a digital approach, we cannot turn a blind eye to those students who reside in areas that don't enjoy the luxury of internet connectivity. Madam Speaker, the recommendation we are proposing today is a simple hybrid approach that will require all offices and groups that are connected to the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information to step forward and support the academic journey of young people in a way it never has before. And the academic journey of those in the most remote locations and digitally disconnected. Madam Speaker, I am pleased to introduce to you the future of tertiary admin services for rural areas, the Document Submission System, or DocSubs for short. In its simplest and purest form, this is a Dropbox service available to tertiary students in rural areas to be used as a drop-off or pick-up location for forms or services that are usually accessible in a physical space for students. Through partnerships with the major universities in the country, we would be able to develop and streamline a process that would ensure efficiency, effectiveness, and most importantly, customer satisfaction. These drop boxes will be placed at YIC's regional offices and regional offices. Madam Speaker, we are encouraging the short-term implementation as soon as possible. However, the intention is to have these drop boxes upgraded to kiosks that will revolutionize admin support for students in disenfranchised areas. These kiosks will now be securely connected to students' information from their respective institutions, giving them the opportunity to access information such as academic status, balance information, and of course the drop-off and pick-up of documents as it would have started off before. Simply put, Madam Speaker, think of an ATM for your university experience, but specifically for students in deep rural areas or those areas that are digitally disconnected. Madam Speaker, the harsh reality is that COVID is going nowhere. With this in mind, we must now continue our considerations on how we will encourage and continue a transition to online learning while ensuring that we are not further disenfranchising individuals. Most importantly, we must now look to how we protect our students beyond just mask wearing, social distancing, and sanitization.
Member Najee Nunez from St. Thomas Western and Minister of Local Government and Community Development.
Madam Speaker, the reality of education in Jamaica is this. 2 of every 3 students do not have the technology required to access online classes. 36% of urban residents and 76% of rural households have no internet connectivity whatsoever. The likelihood of a student being unable to attend a virtual class in Jamaica is lower than that of almost every single other Caribbean country and territory. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Madam Speaker, COVID-19 has engendered a world that has beset our most in need. Right now, our education system is like the math book, filled with problems. But with X as educational reform, we shall find the solution. As highlighted earlier, internet connectivity is a significant challenge and shows that the country's main providers of internet play a critical part in our technological incapacity that affects our educational change efforts. To mitigate this, I propose the creation of a government-owned and operated internet service provider called J-Chance, the Jamaica cyberspace hyper-accessible national connection enabler that will remind all our students that we're giving each of them an equal chance. Through leasing the amenities of our current internet service providers, in consultation with the Office of Utility Regulation, under the guidance of the Ministry of Science, Energy and Technology, and through collaboration with the private sector, we will connect our homes to the World Wide Web. No longer will our citizens fall at the mercy of internet service providers who extort them for a quality service they cannot or refuse to provide. We shall let them know that there's a new way how we flow. Madam Speaker, through municipal networks, prices will be greatly reduced as your government has no incentive to profit. Whereas other ISPs may charge $4,000, for example, the Jamaica Cyberspace Hyper-Accessible National Connection Enabler will only charge $1,000, as it is our only desire to satiate the needs of our communities and not make a profit. This would incentivize other ISPs to innovate and to price fairly. This means that residents will have access to high-quality internet at lower costs. With this seen, as in Netherlands, Tanzania, Singapore, and over 1,000 communities across the United States, more and more students will be able to access classes online. Members of this Honorable House, we must further our unwavering commitment to contribute to student development in a scholastic entanglement as we enable them to attain academic achievement. As we continue to work diligently and creatively and think generously and honestly on ways education can meet the challenges, I urge you all to have internet connectivity etched on the tablets of your hearts and in the thoughts of your mind as we work together to reform our education so that she too can play her part in the welfare of the whole human race. Thank you.
Member J. Don Hewitt from St. James East Central and Leader of the Opposition.
Madam Speaker, would have heard arguments from both sides of the House, but the consensus is that there is need for education reform in our country. Now, we would have heard from our learned colleagues on the government side as well as our learned colleagues on the opposition side that we need education reform and we need it now. And until we get education reform, then we shall not progress as a nation. As such, Madam Speaker, I now move that the motion be agreed to.
The question is that the motion be agreed to. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. Member Rihanna Robinson from St. Catherine Eastern and Opposition Spokesperson on Youth, Gender Affairs, Entertainment and Sports.
Madam Speaker, there's a famous quote that says, "The stone that the builders refused shall become the head of the corner." That said stone is none other than agriculture. The COVID-19 pandemic has taken a devastating toll on our country, changing the lives of many of our citizens, where the economy has had a negative growth rate of 11%. Statin recorded 10.8% reduction in the employment rate as at July 2020. Youth unemployment increased by 10.2%. However, according to the Planning Institute of Jamaica, the agriculture, forestry, and fishing industry grew by an estimated 7.8%. This speaks volumes, as agriculture can clearly play a massive role in the development and the recovery of our depleting economy post-COVID-19. Many young people interested in this sector do not have the necessary skills and resources needed for them to become viable competitors within the sector, particularly skills related to business agriculture, financial security, and the incorporation of technology. Agriculture is also heavily associated with rural Jamaica. Inclusion of youth all across the island will contribute to the rise of this industry. Firstly, the Rural Agricultural Development Agency is poised to facilitate the modernization of the sector and increase the technological capacity of its practitioners, especially the young people of this country. I recommend a renewed system of registering farmers that incentivizes registration with free training in agricultural technology and certification. Periodic training, including online resources, should be offered to registered RADA members, and they must be required to complete a certain number of training hours to renew their membership and enjoy their benefits. We have to accelerate the re-socialization of our farmers and use non-forceful but sufficiently compelling measures to draw them into the fourth industrial revolution. The following are key areas that RADA should aggressively work on and, where possible, integrate technology and online learning. Firstly, hydroponics, aquaponics, and aeroponics. Secondly, niche farming and medicinal cultivation. Thirdly, precision agriculture and mini-chromosome technology. Continuous capacity building through training relevant to the evolution of the sector has proven effective, as 60% of the workforce contributes to almost 18% of the gross domestic product in India. Secondly, I recommend that the 4-H clubs responsible for the interventions with regards to youth engagement under the National Youth in Agriculture Policy and Implementation Plan be revamped and modernized. Because the truth is, Madam Speaker, after consulting with students who are involved in these clubs, them say it boring. It needs to include the use of agro-technology training and practical implementation to facilitate a nature of innovation among youth in keeping with the evolution of technology in today's world. These 4-H clubs have also been heavily saturated within rural areas, including the use of technologies, smaller scale niche farming, and linkage to research will increase relevance within urban areas where resources such as large acres of land may not be as readily accessible. This will engage more urban youth and divert them from believing that agriculture is only a rural profession. These recommendations, Madam Speaker, will change the game within our agricultural industry as we know it, and we will reap the economic rewards in aid of the betterment of this country. The opposition causes.
Member David Salmon, St. Andrew Eastern, Prime Minister.
Madam Speaker, we have heard some good arguments from that side of the House, but it's now time to hear a unique contribution from the right side of the House on how to revolutionize our agricultural industry. Quite frankly, agriculture is essential for our economic recovery. For too long, we have treated it as an accident that should never have happened. For too long, we have focused on industries that have failed to produce the desired levels of economic growth. Let us examine the reasons why renewal is necessary. According to the Economic and Social Survey of Jamaica 2018, the agricultural sector contributed an estimated 1.7% of the country's gross domestic product, yet it employed over 16% of the workforce. This imbalance between employment and GDP contribution highlights the industry's low level of productivity, which is a major problem as over 200,000 of our people depend on this sector, especially our youth. Data from RADA's Agribusiness Information System highlighted a 158% increase in the registration of youths aged between 15 to 35 between 2014 and 2016. Thus, we must focus on agriculture as it can serve as a source of potential employment during this nightmare of COVID-19. In order to level up the agriculture industry, we are proposing the new agriculture initiative, which will have the following objectives. 1, promote research and development through our incubation centers. 2, introduce an agriculture insurance program for small farmers. We must recognize that promoting research is essential for the industry's success and improving long-term productivity. Secondly, the recent rains from Tropical Storm Zeta illustrated the vulnerability of the industry. In the space of a weekend, over 11,000 of our farmers lost over 34,000 acres of produce and over $2 billion losses in produce. Madam Speaker, our small farmers are starting from scratch. They need insurance now. We need it now. There's no room for debate. There's no room for delay. Simply having the government provide financial support after the fact is neither productive nor effective. According to the National Financial Inclusion Strategy Report 2018, and I quote, there are no approved microinsurance products in Jamaica, as the current legislative framework does not, and I repeat, does not address the microinsurance business. That is why we need the legislation now. As a responsible government, because we are a responsible government, we must ensure that the needs of our citizens are met without having them come on the news. As a proactive government, we must ensure that our citizens can recover without having to depend on the crutches of bailouts. Insurance for small farmers is that tool to achieve that, Madam Speaker. Hence, the government can maximize its support of the industry by providing seed funding for an agricultural insurance program. Our farmers can contribute to this program yearly in order to have a cushion in difficult times. This would incentivize our youth to enter the industry as they have support in all circumstances. Madam Speaker, in order to address the challenges that we have seen in the system, and in order for our farmers to progress on the road to prosperity, that path is paved with insurance, with research and development, and with taking a proactive step. Madam Speaker, our vision for agriculture is to build a resilient sector focused on the principles of our new agriculture initiative. Madam Speaker, I close with this. In order to build a new Jamaica for all, we must enable our farmers to stand on their feet during recovery and not kneel in despair. That starts with building a new, invigorated agricultural class that will be a beacon of hope for the nation today. I thank
you. Member Emmanuel Orain, St. Andrew Northeastern.
Madam Speaker, the COVID-19 pandemic has exposed significant opportunities for the expansion and development of the agricultural sector in Jamaica. We believe that youth in agriculture can play an integral role in Jamaica's recovery efforts. However, Madam Speaker, there are numerous issues which prevent sufficient youth integration in the agricultural sector and which then limits the technical capacity of youth to be game changers in the modernization of the sector. Many students, Madam Speaker, who are interested in agriculture, who are interested in studying agriculture at the tertiary level, are barred from access because they simply cannot afford to do so. A strong, sustainable agricultural sector demands a skilled labor force that includes research and specialization. Firstly, to promote wider youth involvement in agriculture, we propose that tertiary agricultural education be subsidized and that more public funds be made available. I want to remind this House that agriculture does not only involve the cultivation of plants and the rearing of livestock. It is much more intricate. It involves continuous research and technological development which are integral to the modernization of the sector. By subsidizing tertiary agricultural education, more young people will be qualified in the scientific and business study of agriculture. Secondly, the Jamaican government must, and I repeat, must position its youth to contribute towards the modernization of the sector by providing more funding for postgraduate research. In 2019, 15 students from the College of Agriculture, Science and Education were sent to Israel for an 11-month agricultural program. And we commend this initiative by the government, but we need more. And what we want the government to do is that a new batch of students are supported to pursue similar research, groundbreaking research in Israel as well. Think about it, Madam Speaker. The cure of the dreaded banana disease could come from a Jamaican student whose research was funded locally. Similarly, the next beet armyworm outbreak could be cut down by the innovation of technological development by our Jamaican students. Madam Speaker, our basic premise is this. Jamaica's very survival demands a reinvigorated and amplified focus on agriculture, particularly at the more advanced level of the production line. It behooves the government to make this a priority, as only in feeding ourselves can we stave off the various crises brought about by the dreaded COVID-19. I thank you.
Member Romario Francis, St. Anne Northeastern, Minister of National Security.
It was good.
Madam Speaker, not so long ago, I drove to a community in St. Elizabeth, and I kid you not, for a couple kilometers, almost every yard had at least 2 crops planted in it. Now, urban Jamaica will consider parishes bush with practices such as this, but COVID-19 has highlighted that the bush is doing better now than the concrete jungle. It then led me to ponder what our economy would look like if more youth were involved in agriculture. It is a fact that COVID-19 has changed the game, leaving the agriculture workforce to be more creative. Now, I'm not suggesting that we make everyone into a green thumb nation, no pun intended. But if more youth were involved in agriculture, then it would be more sustainable and more productive. Why? Hutchins states technology is the basis for sustainable agriculture, and youth are fortunate to be born in a digital age, aren't we? Madam Speaker, this government recommends that innovation be introduced in the agricultural field by using technology to make it more sustainable and productive. Now, in order for technology to be accessible to youth, our first recommendation is that we create more avenues for more competition in the commercial agriculture technology sector. For example, in farming, the Food and Agriculture Organization, the UN, recommends that drip irrigation states that drip irrigation is one of the most efficient ways to adequately water crops while saving water. Now, in Jamaica, there is one major commercial distributor of drip irrigation supplies. As a result, youth are not able to access the equipment needed because of the lack of commercial competition, which then leads to the overpriced items, which then makes them unaffordable, leaving small-scale youth farmers with large overhead costs of water and labor. This barrier must be removed in order to make technology accessible to youth who are currently in farming. Secondly, in order to make productivity and sustainability increase, better data gathering techniques need to be introduced into the field. Can you imagine if farms can be monitored and data gathered by not even being in the same parish? It can be a reality as these technological advances are readily available. Systems such as Internet of Things in agriculture will provide data to farmers for rational farm management plans to save both time and money. Even the Honorable Minister Floyd Green in an interview states that the ministry is looking for better data gathering techniques in order to make us recover in and from this pandemic. Madam Speaker, the motto of my beloved alma mater, Monroe College, states, "A city on a hill cannot be hid." Rightly so, as the youth make up the city that is the current and future catalyst for economic growth and sustainability, and we are worth the investment. I thank you.
Member Darian White, St. James East Central, Minister of Education, Youth and Information.
Madam Speaker, we sat, we listened, and we heard our previous speakers of this House present practical and feasible solutions to improve our agriculture industry. Let's settle this matter once and for all. The reality is, Madam Speaker, the COVID-19 pandemic pushed everyone to rethink, refocus, and reshape their planning and preparations, even our very own government. It is also incredible to note that even in the midst of this pandemic, we saw our agriculture industry improve and persevere. Imagine, Madam Speaker, how hard our citizens worked to make this possible. This means that more attention and resources need to be poured into this industry, as it is now poised to help Jamaica's economy improve and helps our youth become successful. Agriculture is unfortunately seen as a fallback occupation, not for the town folks, and not an occupation actively pursued. Together, as a government, we can change this. The issue this mindset presents, Madam Speaker, is that if a decision is made as a nation to rebuild our economy with agriculture, the level of participation and interest as it currently is will not give us the desired results. This is widely due to a lack of exposure and marketing of this industry, which makes it, Madam Speaker, automatically less interesting. The National Youth Parliament of Jamaica recommends revamping our current agriculture curriculum with more practical experiences, not just 1 or 2 labs per year. Secondly, we suggest targeting students interested in agriculture from the first form versus the current approach of targeting these individuals from the fourth form or at the age of 16 years old. Finally, Madam Speaker, we recommend that the ministry expose these students to the different occupations in this sector, not only by advising them of it, but with on-site visitations and different internships. Madam Speaker, this approach, coupled with the pre-existing plan of the Agriculture Ministry, will simply result in increased knowledge and interest in this sector, and from our youth as well, an overall difference in the narrative surrounding agriculture. Imagine, Madam Speaker, the benefits and rewards that will be enjoyed by adopting this new method. In closing, Madam Speaker, what we can see for the future, once this is applied, is a long-term, sustainable, and most importantly, successful agriculture industry. The people have spoken. The onus is now on us, the government, to listen and implement accordingly. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Member Rihanna Robinson, St. Catherine Eastern.
Madam Speaker, the outstanding recommendations rather, made here today by both sides have made it very clear that this country is sitting on a gold mine that is yet to be adequately utilized. Therefore, all of these recommendations need to be acted on immediately. Madam Speaker, I now move that the motion be agreed to.
The question is that the motion be agreed to. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. House Leader?
Madam Speaker, I now move for the recommittal of the item statements by ministers.
The question is that the item statements by ministers be recommitted. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. Statements by ministers. Leader of the Opposition, Jadon Hewitt.
Madam Speaker, members of the gallery, honorable members, this is indeed a solemn time in our nation. As a people, we have inexorably lost so many lives due to this raging monster, the COVID-19 pandemic. Madam Speaker, I beg your indulgence in having the honorable members of this House, as well as the members of the gallery, partake in a moment of silence for all the lives that we have lost to the COVID-19 pandemic. As we all know, Jamaica recorded its first COVID-19 case on March 9, 2020. This single case sent shockwaves of fear and worries throughout the entire population, including what we would like to describe as the most resilient of the populations, the youth and the children. The truth is, the majority were actually terrified, as we knew how badly this virus was rummaging through foreign countries, for example, the United States. The extent of the pandemic, the extent of the impact felt on the youth population was absolutely unpredictable and unescapable. This pandemic is so much more than a health crisis. It has affected youth in particular in a plethora of ways, initiating major struggles for the youth population, but equally so, enabling young people to now unlock and maximize on new aspects of themselves and their lives. As we celebrate Youth Month, a period in which we seek to rethink, to reimagine, to refocus, and to get back to it, Madam Speaker, I must acknowledge the resilience of our youth on both sides. Physical school closure had a major impact on the lives of students and their parents, from the primary, secondary, and tertiary level. This harshly highlighted the digital divide here in our country, where many students, more so in rural parishes and low-income areas, are without gadgets and without access to internet connection. Today, Madam Speaker, we would have seen learned, very intelligent members on both sides debating strategies in which we can better our country. I must congratulate each and every one of you, my learned colleagues on the opposition, as well as my learned colleagues on the side government, for your well put together arguments. I must also congratulate you. I must also congratulate you on being selected as to be a part of the 11th staging of the National Youth Parliament of Jamaica. I consider this a privilege, and I'm sure that you do too. Ultimately, this atmosphere has been a truly trying time for the youth population due to several aforementioned factors. This unprecedented period has discombobulated the lives of so many, and it has interrupted and, of course, revented the status quo, thrusting us into what some call the Fourth Industrial Revolution. It has been and continues to be a major challenge for everyone to readjust. However, it has also been a time of new beginnings that allowed us to unlock various aspects of ourselves that were hidden under the hustle and bustle of everyday life. Understandingly, Madam Speaker, the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information finds it challenging to fulfill its mandate to provide quality care and education in an innovative, inclusive, and enabling environment, thereby creating socially conscious and productive Jamaicans. Madam Speaker, we have to adapt to the times. As the quote reminds us, we adapt or we die. We, as Jamaicans, as one of the most resilient set of people in the entire world, I am sure, Madam Speaker, that we will overcome. Thank you.
David Salmon, Prime Minister.
Madam Speaker, after hearing today's presentations, it is a fact when I declare that the youth of Jamaica are represented by the best cohort of youth parliamentarians in this program's history. The work and depth of analysis produced is indicative of this Parliament's resolve in pursuit of excellence. This cohort of youth parliamentarians came with a Pegasus and AC Marriott level of quality. Madam Speaker, today is a bittersweet moment for us as our journey as members of the National Youth Parliament of Jamaica is coming to an end. To our fellow youth parliamentarians not physically present, I salute you and your efforts to empower the people, especially the youth of this nation. This year's Parliament is also a year of many firsts. This was the first year we experienced a pandemic. The first year most of our sessions were held online, and the first cohort to have not one, but two county coordinators becoming engaged to each other during their tenure of this Parliament. On behalf of the NYPJ 2019-2020 cohort, we congratulate the member from St. James West Central, our health minister, and from St. Anne Northeastern, our national security minister, on their decision to tie the knot. Madam Speaker, I must take this opportunity to mention some of our successful projects that we have executed. Under our business mentorship program, this cohort of youth parliamentarians have trained 20 entrepreneurs. Across the length and breadth of Jamaica, we have distributed over 1,300 care packages. We have planted over 150 trees, renovated 6 schools, cleaned 3 beaches, and hosted 5 back-to-school treats across Jamaica. Throughout our tenure, we have impacted over 900 young people through our online seminar series. We have donated over 1,500 books to schools across Jamaica. Madam Speaker, never before has this parliament achieved such an ambitious effort. Never before have we had so little time in which to do so much. If I were to list every project today, Madam Speaker, we would not be finished anytime soon. However, we just need to check the papers. Madam Speaker, we were featured on November the 8th. We were featured on the 15th. We were featured on the 22nd. We were featured on the 29th. COVID could not stop the work of this parliament. This pandemic could not derail us as we carry out the people's business. But this is not surprising, Madam Speaker, as we have been supported by a committed Youth Advisory Council of Jamaica. Led by Malik Kelly and Annabelle Jones, this body has never wavered in their support. This body has shown that the youth of Jamaica are indeed lit. This body has shown that even what I call the senior youth can help the junior youth. Furthermore, we must express our appreciation to Minister Robert Morgan and the staff of the Youth and Adolescent Policy Division of the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information. We must especially thank Mr. Davy Horton, Miss Yannick Williams, Miss Ruth Lawrence, Mr. Guyon Mitchell, and Miss Simone Campbell. They ably executed their duties without flinching and without wavering and with a fixity of purpose. Heartfelt appreciation must be expressed to our political ombudsman, the Honorable Donna Parchment Brown, and Dr. Trevor Monroe and Ms. Jamie Ann Chevans from the National Integrity Action. Finally, we must thank our partners for making this historic day a reality. These include the Jamaica Association for Debate and Empowerment, JN Bank, Heart Trust NSTA, the Institute of Law and Economics, 3-month planning committee and the staff of the Houses of Parliament. We must also thank our interpreter, Ms. Carol Williams, from the Jamaica Association of the Deaf. Lastly, we must acknowledge our former State Minister and current State Minister in the Ministry of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sports, Mr. Orlando Terla, who would have set the foundation for such a successful year of Youth Parliament. Madam Speaker, youth underemployment, mental health, education reform, and skills training are all important to building a new Jamaica. We need to focus on new industries for youth employment. We need to mold minds that are resilient to the challenges of the day. We need to build an education system where our youth have the skills to succeed in the 21st century. And we need the will to act in revolutionizing agriculture. Madam Speaker, the mission of the previous generation was to win self-government for Jamaica. It is the mission of our current generation of leaders to provide stability in an ever-changing world of uncertainty. However, I speak now directly to the youth when I say that our mission is to facilitate opportunities for all Jamaicans, where regardless of your circumstances in life, you have the ability, you have the capacity, you have the fortitude to pursue excellence in a new Jamaica for all. I thank you.
I now take the time to acknowledge the Honorable Orlando Terrylong, Member of Parliament and State Minister in the Ministry of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport. House Leader.
Madam Speaker, it is not intended that we do any further business today. I therefore move that the House be adjourned sine die.
The question is that this Honorable House be adjourned sine die. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it. This Honorable House now stands adjourned.
Shamar, turn off your mic.